Hey everyone, I'm Julie Gunlock, host of the Bespoke Parenting Hour. For those new to the program, this podcast is focused on how parents should custom tailor their parenting style to fit what's best for their families, themselves, and most importantly, their kids. Today is another episode with my favorite guest, Cathy Holman, better known as Prairie Wife. Cathy is a mom of 5 who lives in Wyoming and who began prairiewifeinheels.com in 2013 to spread the message of living with grit and grace. As you all know, Cathy and I like to chat about parenting issues as they come up. We've talked about traveling with kids, sports, getting prepared for college, even our looming empty nest syndrome, which was a tearjerker for both of us. Today, we're covering something more topical, gift giving for kids and teens. Hey, Cathy, thanks for coming on.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Is it wrong if I admit like half of this is purely selfish because I'm struggling with this myself?
So am I. Okay, so you have 5 kids. Give me
Yep.
your age range.
Okay, so I have a senior boy, I have a sophomore girl, I have an 8th grade boy, and then, oh my gosh, see my brain, and a 5th grade boy and a 3rd grade girl.
It's a
So
lot.
8 to 17.
Okay, and
Yeah.
that's actually hard. Now mine are even more stair-stepped. I have a sophomore, a freshman, and an 8th grader. So essentially, it's a blob of boys, and they're
Right?
kind of the same age, essentially. There's not a huge distinction there.
Mhm.
Um, I am struggling for probably similar reasons to you. Now, do you do a pull a number out of the hat and a secret Santa situation, or does
Okay.
each kid buy a present for each
So
kid?
I was trying to think like what would actually be helpful for people for us to discuss, right? Because that's what this is all
Yeah.
about. And I feel like maybe talking about all the different ways you can give gifts and like sharing what you do for your family and I can do mine. And I kind of cheated and did like a ask all my Facebook
I
followers
love it.
for what they're doing. So like this is the source for people. So what we do, and this is what we have done through all income levels. Okay. We are comfortable now with our income, but when we started our parenting journey, like most people in their 20s, like absolutely not. And 2, here's your Santa warning. If you are listening to this and you don't have earbuds in, like this is your Santa warning. Okay. So I'm giving you a second to turn this off. Okay.
Good
So,
girl.
what we do is Santa Claus brings one thing that they've asked for. We write letters to Santa where they ask for 2 things, okay? And they know they're going to get one. No animals and no tech when you talk to Santa. Except for one time Santa brought my husband a horse, and that has been a bone of contention for all the kids because they're like,
I
"Well,
bet.
not a horse." Only in Wyoming, am I right? Like
Right,
only
exactly.
so Santa brings them one thing they ask for, and then they get a religious gift. We're Catholic, so they get something to do with their confirmation saint or a Bible or devotional. And then they get one item of clothing. It's usually something to do with their sports team they like or Wyoming, something like that.
Nice.
So that's all Santa brings. And then my husband and I get each kid one gift.
Nice.
And then they each get their siblings one gift. And we
Okay.
honestly, at this point in our life, we don't put a budget on it. But obviously, if they want to get something that's like for us, that's like $200 for their sibling, we make them pick something else. Like that's not what it's about. Their big
Oh,
gift is usually from my husband and I, but sometimes their big gift is like a $25 scooter. It's usually the
right.
other thing they asked Santa for that they didn't get.
Yeah, that's great. And
And that's what we do.
I have to say, so each child gets a gift for each other
Yeah,
child.
so they get 4 because there's 5 of them. So they get 4 presents from their sibling and then 1 from mom and dad. So that's 5 gifts.
And then
And
2
then
from
from Santa, they get the big gift, a Christian, or a Catholic gift, and then, something about the
one
true
other
meaning
thing.
of Christmas. And then they get a clothing item.
That is so sweet.
And it works.
I am enormously disappointing in this situation. Generally, I panic and do a massive Amazon shopping
Mhm.
like a month before. I wish I was one of those people. And also there's no rhyme or rhythm. I wish that I had been thoughtful, and I love that you've
Mhm.
kind of said, one religious gift, and I love that. I will say one thing that I do is similar to you, my children get their siblings gifts. Now,
So important.
they actually do pay for most of it,
Nice.
and
Okay.
we help. if they need a little boost at the end.
I love that. We don't do that. We just cover the cost of all of it. And then of course, like, I
Well,
take
when
them
they
to
have
get something bad.
when they have
Yeah.
4 to get, mine only have 2. That's a lot. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're gonna do it,
Especially
you
when
gotta.
you're 8.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, we help out some if they need help.
Mhm.
But I will tell you, my mother, I hope she's not gonna listen to this. My mother suggested, so I have family that comes into town,
Mhm.
and it's my aunt, my sister, and my mom and dad, and I host. And my mom this year said for the first time, maybe next year we should do sort of a like Secret Santa kind of thing, which I do not like. I do not
Really?
like. I don't like that. I don't like let's pull names out of a hat and then you get your one gift from
Do you
one
think it's because of
person.
the pressure to like pick
I
the
think
perfect
so.
gift because you're only getting one?
Yes, but I also I like get what you want for people. Like I don't like this whole, anyway, it's fine. It's fine, but I'm not thrilled with that. And you don't
That's
do that
fascinating
either.
to me. No, we honestly, for holidays, so all my family is in like Wisconsin, Texas,
Right.
California, and my husband's mom goes somewhere warm for Christmas, and his siblings all have big families.
So
So
it's just you.
yeah, and we kind of started that tradition on purpose as soon as we had kids that we don't travel for Christmas because Santa wants to come to our house and he wants to bring those gifts there and we want that tradition. And now that we
Well,
have kids that are moving out next year, I don't know what the new rules. I know, right? I don't know what the new rules are
there are
going to
no
be.
new rules. You just
I
keep going.
I
They will
will
have to
tell
come back.
you that the best thing my parents did for me when I left home is they said, and I preach this so much and I tell this to my kids, we don't care when we see you as long as we see you. And it took all the pressure off for having to be there on the holidays when it's more
Yes.
expensive to travel. It took all the pressure off. So a lot of times we'll go in the summer because who wants to be in Wisconsin in December anyway? Not even sorry I said it. But so that's something that I've told my kids. But back to the different gift giving ideas. I love the idea for when they're older of maybe doing a name in a hat thing and taking that pressure off, especially when they're responsible for their own gifts. So like our oldest son as a starving college student, because he's paying for it, isn't going to feel obligated
True.
to get something. So I'm filing that away. I had someone on Facebook that said they do like one toy, one thing to wear, and one thing to read, and that's it.
That's
Which
so
I think
good.
is great.
Honestly though, I will tell you, I love your strategy and I love the strategy you just mentioned because I do feel like people overdo it. And we've been guilty of that, of
Yep.
overdoing the gifts to the point that, and honestly, my sister does not have children and my aunt does not have kids. And so when it's mainly for the gifts, the bulk of the gifts are for
Yeah.
the kids.
Yeah.
And for that reason, there's a lot of gifts for the kids from the relatives as well.
Yeah.
Um, but I do love the idea of setting kind of a, like sort of a strategy early
Mhm.
on that they're
Mhm.
used to. And especially when you have as many kids as you do, it's very important that it's not overwhelming because also buying for 5 kids has got to be overwhelming. And so this way when you
Especially
have
in
your
Wyoming.
yes,
Like
yes,
we have 2 Targets in the whole state. Like, in the
really.
whole state. Yeah, There's one in Cheyenne and one in Casper, and that's it.
Wow.
So most people have to drive from those small towns. They have to drive an hour and a half to get to
Amazon,
Walmart.
but Amazon
Yeah, but
delivery
don't you want to
readily?
kind of like not to be a snob, but I really do try and shop local. And I know Target's not local, but at least it's money that's going to
I don't
people
shop
at
at
work.
Target for political reasons,
Yeah,
but I mean,
yeah, and
but in but honestly, if you live in an area that doesn't have a lot of options, you bet your butt I'd be at Target
yeah,
if I had
yeah.
these were my few options.
And my thought is it's and something I wanted to say because I was really deeply thinking about this because I have friends who have done the gone big thing, but then Wyoming's boom and bust, right? Like, and right now everyone knows what the economy looks like. Groceries, Mike, I don't even want to tell you what our bill is for a family of 7, and we even have cows and like elk meat.
Right.
So I think that there's nothing wrong with starting a new tradition and starting scaling back now. And if your kids are little punks and little brats about it, then that's a cue that you're doing the exact right thing by scaling back on
Yes.
that aspect of it. And
Yes.
I guess it
Yes.
depends too. We're religious. So for us, there is a religious connotation to what we're doing, to the gift giving. And we definitely emphasize that. And if you just celebrate Christmas to do the gifts, all the more reason to be like, you know what? We're just doing this to treat you, to love you, for something fun. We're going to scale back. So I just want to encourage parents, have a conversation with your kids and warn them. But also, if they are little punks about, what do you mean I'm not going to get everything on my list? Then I feel like that's a cue that you need to work on some gratitude for them and have a conversation about rights versus privilege. I wrote a blog post about that just last week. So I just want to encourage parents that if you have gotten overwhelmed by it, change it. You're making the rules.
Yeah, and I do encourage everyone to start early because it's easier when they're young, when they're
Yeah.
really young, then
Yeah.
their expectations are going to be. But I do agree with you that it is important
Not
to
too
set
late.
expectations. I
Yeah.
will say I was kind of joking. I don't give myself
Yeah.
enough credit because I do only get I have instead of a number, I have a budget limit for myself that I set. And my husband and I do not exchange gifts. We might get something very little. Usually at the
Right. You
last
get
minute
to
I'll
a
get him.
point where it's like, I just go buy what I
Ex
need.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, yeah, I mean, honestly, a walk with my husband, some quiet time with my husband would mean a lot. That
Yeah.
sounds so cheesy, but
No,
honestly,
I
we
get
almost
it.
are never I mean, we're in carpool hell right now, right? You're in the car all seemingly all night. So, quality time. One other thing that I'm wondering if you've ever done this. My kids at this point are starting to appreciate experiences. And you and I have both recently traveled overseas
Mhm.
actually with our
Yeah.
kids. You went to Italy and I went to
Yep.
Ireland and I'm
Yep.
just back actually less than a week back. And I took a lot of your tips. And I loved our conversation about traveling with kids. Have you as your kids have gotten older, is that something that you've thought about instead of, actual gifts under the tree? Having a family experience. I know you don't travel during the
No,
holidays,
that's what
but is
we
that
did for
something?
Italy. Italy
Yeah.
was their Christmas present last year.
Was it?
Yep, that was
Okay.
their Christmas present. So Santa still brought gifts because the big man always comes through. But the gifts for each other, we didn't say anything, but we kept it on a lower budget and steered the kids towards something a little smaller. And then that was the whole family gift from my husband and I for
So
everybody.
fun.
And they loved it. They didn't bat an eye, especially because they still had things to open, little things
Right.
from each other and from Santa. And I
Right.
have to be honest, this year as I'm like back to doing real Christmas, I'm like, can we do another trip? Because that was so easy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
easy. And I have friends that do that every year for their family. Their family vacation in the spring is always the gift at Christmas. And even though the kids know they're getting that gift, they did never know the location until Christmas Day.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's where the big surprise is then there's a letter that tells them all the things they're doing and where they're going every Christmas, and their kids love it.
Well, it's interesting. Our president, IWF's president, Carrie Lucas, who's a very
Mhm.
good friend of mine, and I know you've met her. I think you met
Yes.
her at the
Yeah.
gala.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
she actually did something one year, which I thought was really sweet. And we live in Virginia, so obviously it's possible. It's not doable from Wyoming unless you're insane. But their kids, they had one gift. They had a few gifts, but fewer gifts, and then but each one had to open a gift at the same exact time, and it was a note saying we're going to Disney, and they drove that day.
So
They
I love
drove,
that. Yes.
and
Oh,
it's
I'm
10
channeling that one.
hours. It's 10 hours. It's not
Mhm.
exactly fun, but
Mhm.
you can make these road
It's not
trips
bad,
fun.
especially if your
No,
kids are older, forget about it.
and
You put a DVD on, they
yes.
play their games, it's
Yes.
fine.
They
Yeah.
went to Disney, they went to the beach, and then they came home. They weren't gone for very long, and they certainly didn't do, like, a week at Disney. I think they did a
Yeah.
couple days or something like that because, Disney's insane expensive, but
Girl.
still, that was their well, I
Yeah.
know it's like it's like a trip to Europe, but the point is that was a super fun,
Yeah.
sort of Christmas morning thing that gave their family an experience, and
Yes.
it's funny because she's encouraging us to do that at some point, and maybe we will, but the
It's
point
fun.
is
I tell you what, it was really fun to do that for the kids because they heard us talking about Italy, but my husband, we kind of staged it so he would play the bad guy and be like, absolute, that's so, and we also have done whole family presents before. We bought his name is Pancho the Christmas Mule because he was a gift present and he's a mini mule. He's like the
I
size of
love
a
your
Labrador.
mule.
Yeah. So Pancho was that's why he's Pancho the Christmas Mules. He was a whole family Christmas gift. And then one year we got 2 kayaks for the whole family rather than individual. And my kids have never, ever batted an eye. And part of it, I think, is because of how we teach them about gratitude and the reason for the season. And I really mean it. It's not too late to start that. And again, if your kids are, and I don't know if your kids are jerks, if you bring this up to them or you give them an experience and they're jerks about it, then rather than being mad at them, I think you need to look at yourself and what you're doing as a family. And it's never too late to stop and rework your system so that, you can change where you see the problem is. We actually did that. One of our kiddos asked for a 4-wheeler for his birthday. Okay. And he was telling everyone, I'm getting a 4-wheeler for my birthday. I'm getting everyone a 4. Yeah, I'm getting it. And we had actually bought it for him and had it hidden. But because he was so caught up
obnoxious about it.
Yep. And he was probably 7 years old at the time. And we didn't give it to him. And do you know what? He never said a word.
Oh.
He never complained. He enjoyed all the gifts he got. He never mentioned anything. And so then at Christmas, we gave it to him at Christmas, and it had completely been off his radar. And he was so appreciative and so thankful. But to me, like, it was a good lesson for him. And obviously he wasn't too far gone because he didn't complain. He didn't get it. Right. But it's our job as parents, and we do get caught up in it. And I think too, the whole keeping up with the Joneses thing has 2 sides to it, right? It has people that are going broke trying to provide everything for their kids, but then it also has people who are financially stable feeling guilty about what they do for their kids. And I'm going to call bull crap on that. We have a lot of people that tried to make us feel bad about taking our whole family to Italy. Oh, must be nice. You know what? It was. And we saved, and I worked a second job. Specifically, that is why I work, is to afford all the fun stuff for our family. My paycheck goes to our vacation, to our family experiences and things like that. And I think, like how you were saying, well, I do stop it. If you have the ability to give your kids a big Christmas, if that is important to you, do not feel guilty about it.
Well, but also your experiences don't have to be Italy.
No, they don't. They can be going to the reef in Billings, Montana. My kids love that indoor water park.
You can go on a drive to see the fall leaves turn and stop and get an ice cream. You can go on a hike. You can go. You can do a lot of day trips. I mean, the thing that people need to understand is what kids are enjoying is not the actual. Okay, fine. I'm lying. Anybody would enjoy Italy. Okay. But they're enjoying time with their mom and dad. And
the memories.
We laughed so hard because of in Ireland driving on the opposite side of the road. And when my husband gets stressed, he does this thing where no one can talk, right? So everything's going fine. And someone in the back is trying to say something. And then the husband is like, don't talk. No one talk. I'm concentrating. And then none of us can stop laughing, which only makes him more and more mad.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, it didn't really matter where we were in that moment. It was just a fun memory. We won't forget it. We won't stop making fun of Darren, my husband, for that.
Oh, 100%.
And again, it that can really happen everywhere. And so, but I also think there's something about when you mentioned I saved, I worked a second job, I worked really hard. Mm-hmm. There is something about if you go to the store and you buy a dozen presents and you wrap them, kids, they're bored of them within 10 minutes. It's 100%. Actually incredibly frustrating when you buy, and and I've done this. I bought the Tonka trucks and I bought all the little plastic things. And then I couldn't believe that. And I have a sun porch just around the corner here. And, within a day or two, they were all piled up there and they're done. Yeah. Yeah. And yet, if you have an experience, it lasts. And again, it doesn't have to be a super experience. Spending time with your kids is what matters. Talking to them, laughing with them, having these experiences. And I really do sound like, I don't mean to sound like, I mean this as a way of reducing a little bit of
taking the pressure off
of the number of presents under the tree.
Yeah. And I think too, it's something that I read years ago, and it honestly has really impacted the way I buy gifts for everybody, is think back to Christmas and spend our holidays and any tradition. So think back to Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving of your childhood. What do you remember? For me, I remember making gingerbread cake with my mom. So guess what we do every year at Christmas? I don't remember gifts. I just don't. I remember the time on the family and my dad being grouchy because we always opened gifts after midnight mass. And so he was super grouchy and tired and cranky. I can only imagine. Plus, he was surprised at everything we
Did
got
you
for him.
did you
Like,
do gifts after midnight mass
yeah,
your whole
because Santa
childhood?
would come, yeah, when not with my own kids, but
No, no,
when
no,
we were
no.
growing up. Yeah.
Oh God.
And there were 4 of us, so it took forever.
Oh,
But
you're
Santa would come while we were at midnight mass.
right. Right.
So I would always be looking out the stained glass window for Santa. Like that's what I remember, right? Like, and my kids remember driving back from Christmas Eve and looking for Santa. Like these are the things. So the things you remember, that's what you need to implement into your family traditions. The
That's
things
right.
that bring you joy. And again, it's never too late to change. If something is no longer working, switch it up.
Yep.
If your
Yep.
kids
That's
aren't
good.
little and you want to go somewhere for the holidays, go. Like change things up. I just think we get so stuck in
Well,
has to be, has to
I
be, has
also
to be.
think as kids get older, um, it is the time to switch it up. Honestly, you know, I probably could stop making them all wear identical pajamas at night,
But if it brings you
right?
joy, I
It
say
does.
do it
Well,
because it,
actually,
right?
now I've just gotten them flannel plaid pants, right? But I mean, there are some things that I have trouble and I hang on to a
But
little bit.
if it makes you happy though, that's
Right.
okay, right?
Well,
Like so,
but the
just
question
like
is, yeah, does it make my kids happy to turn? Yeah. Do you have
yeah,
your plaid pants on? Make
they
sure you
have
wear
to
your
come,
plaid
but
pants.
they have to complain about it. But I feel like the matching Christmas jammies is one that will be good in 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the one where they will look back at, right? I
Right.
think there, and for us too. So this year was hard for me because we always go and cut down our own Christmas tree. So
Right.
we have Thanksgiving, we go up in the mountains, we cut down our own Christmas tree. It's a memory. Some of the memories are terrible. Like when I was like hugely pregnant and doing it and dragging an 18-month-old on a sleigh behind me. Like it's funny now, terrible then. But like that is one of my, because it's just kicks off the holiday season for us. And it's
Yeah.
fun now that they're older. But I had surgery the week of Thanksgiving, so we can't cut down a Christmas tree this year because I'm medically like I can't go hike, I can't
Of
go
course.
drag a Christmas tree around and everything
Right.
like that. So we had to buy our tree, and we've had to do that one other time when I had my mastectomy. It was the same thing. I had surgery that week, and that hurts my heart a little bit. But on the other hand, like it's fine. We'll get
Right.
back to it next year. So I think that fluidity and flexibility, we need to, give ourselves some slack,
Yeah,
cut
and
ourselves
I
some
do think that that Christmas is a time too of tremendous parent guilt, whether it's and
yeah, and I'm hoping this relieves that from
I hope
people,
this
right?
relieves
Like,
a little bit, like limit the gifts and remember the
mhm.
reason for the season and all of that.
Yeah,
But I
and it's
al
not too late to change.
but I
New
also
traditions are
think
fine.
so this year I've actually decided I'm not doing as much. I've reduced a little bit of the decorations. I told my mom that so I usually, I have family come into town and so
Mhm.
I'll do a Christmas Eve luncheon, then I do Christmas Eve dinner, I do a big Christmas Day breakfast, and then there's a Christmas Day dinner.
Girl.
And my mom helps my mom, provides one of those things. We're French Canadian, and she makes tourtière, which is a
Oh, wow.
pork pie, and my mom makes them. So I make the
Mhm.
sides, which are easy,
Mhm.
but one of the big lift is making the tourtière. And so she makes one of those. That's very helpful. But I just told her, I said, "I'm so tired." Plus, I do radio, and the day after Christmas, I'm on radio.
You don't get
So I
breaks in
so I
radio.
said, Christmas Eve dinner is gonna be takeout.
Good
And
for you.
my whole family loves Chinese. And I said, "We're ordering Chinese. We're gonna go
It's
to
like you're
mass."
Jewish. That's what all my Jewish friends did.
Yes, we're gonna go to
Yeah.
Catholic mass and then come home and be Jewish
Yep.
and have our
Yep.
and have
Perfect.
Chinese, and it'll be lovely. And I've reduced the decorations,
Good
and
for you.
I've sort of, so I have actually tried this year, and I think that that's important because when I am packed, I'm grumpy. You mentioned
That's
your
what I was
grumpy
about to say.
dad.
I feel like
I'm
you're probably better to
grumpy.
be around. And I say
I'm
that in a loving way. I know
no,
I used to do
yeah,
that too. I used to be everything has to be perfect and the house has to be spotless. And I screamed and yelled at everyone. And
yes,
then everyone came over and I'm like, I shared a GIF
everything's great.
on my
Everything
Prairie Lake page. And it's like the dinosaur from Jurassic Park. And it's like mom getting, mom getting ready for Thanksgiving. And then the one underneath it is the cute little dinosaur from Toy Story. And it's like mom when everyone comes over. And that's so true.
Okay.
So
I don't, but you're right. Sometimes you just become unpleasant. And so.
And now you have a new tradition of Chinese food. I think
that's right.
perfect. Like seriously, why
who doesn't love dumplings, right?
We do chili and cinnamon rolls for Christmas Eve because we go to the children's mass at like 4:00, 5:00 in the afternoon on Christmas Eve. We come home, chili, cinnamon rolls, and then we leave a cinnamon roll.
What is chili and cinnamon rolls? This is okay. Hold on,
it's a Wyoming thing, man.
It's also isn't it Minnesota or something?
Yeah, like I think in Wisconsin did it too. It's like a rural farm thing.
Okay, hang on. Okay, I just need to take a moment. You literally take a cinnamon roll and you pour chili over it, right?
No. It's like next to each other.
Okay.
Though there are some people that dip. I think that's gross, but I also don't let my food touch. I'm that person like that has the divided plate. But yeah, so it's you have the chili and then you have the cinnamon roll and it just works. And then the next day for breakfast, because my kids, I kid you not, even last year, okay, when we said do not wake us up before 4 a.m., like we have a flat rule. Even the 17-year-old and the 15-year-old, they got us up at 3:15 in the morning.
That's hilarious. That's how my kids used to be, but not anymore. Now
they still
sleep in. Now I'm downstairs drinking my 4th cup of coffee. Like, come on.
No, my kids are and I know I'm going to miss it. And this is one of those traditions and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not. So they're up. So then we have the cinnamon rolls and we also. Yeah, and we also decorate sugar cookies for Santa and give him sugar cookies, a cinnamon roll, and then a shot of tequila to stay warm.
You do not.
And I feel like DFS will not take my kids away. I'm going to count on the producer to edit this out. But one year.
It's not going to get edited out.
Our youngest was.
Did he drink it?
Our youngest, she would have been, let's see, so her birthday's in February, so she would have almost been 2 years old. And we're opening up the Christmas gifts and tequila, Santa left a little tequila behind, didn't have the whole shot. And she's like, I'm thirsty. And we're like, go get a drink, get your sippy. Like, our house is kid friendly. And all of a sudden she comes back and she goes, that water is hot. And she's like scraping her tongue off. It was like a thimbleful of tequila, but we were dying.
Oh,
so like,
Cathy.
these are fun traditions, easy traditions, great memories. That's what we all remember is my almost 2-year-old drinking tequila.
Right, exactly.
Like, we don't remember what she got as a gift that year. None of the kids remember what they got as a gift.
This podcast is about, essentially free ranging, and that's new. That's a new strategy.
So let's go in. How about to really help people out? And just because my readers at Prairie Wife put in the work, gift ideas.
Yes.
Like some good ones. I will say my oldest, the one that's a senior, he asked Santa for tuition money.
Oh, smart.
So look, if they flat out are like, give me cash, like they're going to get some cash. So Santa's going to give him some dollar bills. I know my older kids, the name brand athletic wear, they love Adidas for their wrestling because they have the bottoms they can take off over their wrestling shoes.
Yeah.
So, but that stuff is expensive.
It is. Especially oh my God, Cathy. Okay, I'm always buying cheap stuff. I'm always buying things on discount, TJ Maxx.
Well, with boys, I'm sure your boys just tear right through it anyway.
And so
outgrow it.
My middle son really likes name brand. He likes Nike.
Yeah.
So he asked to go to Dick's Sporting Goods. I don't know if they have Dick's out there, but
Dick's
we do
have one. No, maybe we have two. In the state.
And I took it, and I said, okay. And he had his own money, and I said, okay, if you want to spend full price on a pair of sweats, I had no idea that Nike sweats were $100.
Dude, it's insane.
I didn't know that, and so, that's one thing is like for Christmas is maybe splurge on one name brand thing.
You got it. The one really cool pair of shoes,
right?
That they've been wanting.
Right.
So I think that's a great idea. I think gift cards for everybody. A lot of people are like, oh, where's the personal touch? And I get that. And I understand that. But on the other hand, for me, the gift of guilt-free spending.
So this is the problem. This is the problem with gift cards. And I am guilty of this. People buy me gift cards and I find them in a drawer a year later. I am so terrible. Oh, I know, but I am terrible about using them. that makes me a little nervous, although I will be getting a couple this year. Um, the other thing that I suggest to people is really thinking about what interests your child and deviating a little bit from, not deviating, but like finding things that are related.
Mhm.
And for instance, my child is really into aviation. He loves
Yeah.
to track planes. He loves to learn about planes. And so I got him a pair of aviator sunglasses, really nice aviator sunglasses.
Very
I
cool.
also got him the patron saint of air travel, a little medal. If
Yep.
he's
Yep.
not, I don't think he listens to my podcast, but I hope he doesn't listen to this.
We'll
And
like we'll just put a warning label on this
yeah,
one.
exactly. Don't listen. But so and with my other son, I bought him some stuff. He loves to write little short stories, so I bought him some
Yeah.
stuff related to that. And so look at what they're interested in and try to find, I think, gifts based on that can be hard. But your
Yeah.
kid should have interests. That's a warning sign. If your kid have no interest, that's a
See
warning
that,
sign
and that's
too.
it right there too. And I've seen what kind of started this conversation, why I was like, can we talk about this? Is on one hand, it's funny, and I think it's great that these kids did this, but on the other hand, I don't know. So on TikTok, you have all these kids that are showing their parents their PowerPoint presentations of what they want for Christmas.
Oh,
And on one hand, I'm game with this. Like our 15-year-old daughter's on Pinterest. So she's like, Mom, I have a Pinterest board. And you can
that's
go to that.
fine.
But it's
Yes.
like a cute pair of slippers or some
Right.
cowgirl themed jam, right? Like she understands the
Right.
concept of budget and what our
Right.
family can afford. But some of these kids and some of the things that they're asking for is insane, like a $2,000 gaming system, which on one hand, all right, if you can afford that, if your budget for your family, okay, I do not want to make you feel guilty if you got your kid that. But I would hope if they got that, they also didn't get the 3 pairs of custom Nike shoes they asked for and the, $500 Yeezy slides that are on, all the kid,
Well,
right?
and
Like I
well, and
don't.
the other thing that if you really are and I don't mean to be a bah humbug here, but
Mhm.
if you are to the point where you can like buy 3 pairs of easy shoes or whatever, or gosh, more than one pair of Nike sweatpants, maybe encourage your children to find a charity they care about
Yeah.
and give a contribution, and maybe one of their gifts and one of the amount that it takes because you know the thing that bothers me, and I think this is a policy conversation that's separate from this, is the idea that government is now taking over the need for charities. Why does a charity need to exist if the government is taking care of everything? Do people go to charities anymore to get help? No, they go to the government. And we need to remind young people that charities have a very important place in
Absolutely.
civil
Yeah.
society and that they do more than just giving handouts. They many of them, especially ones that are Christian based and religiously
Dignity.
based,
They're
I should
giving
say.
dignity back to people.
That's right. And so,
Mhm.
if you are a family that can afford all of these things, perhaps encourage your child to discover
Love it.
charities that they care about, maybe that they could volunteer and to give them also personal interest and personal experiences with those charities. Because you don't need 3 pairs of Nike sweatpants and
Just because you
Yeezys
can
to
doesn't mean you
right,
should, right? It
right.
begs that question of let's look at, in my opinion, being a parent means raising children to be good adults that give back to the world. That is
That's
my
right.
end game. Okay. So buying them $10,000 worth of gifts, even if you can, should you? Is that
Right.
going to be the right thing? Or are you better served? I love, love, love that idea of letting each kid pick a charity and they still get gifts. It's fun to get gifts. It's fun to
Yeah.
get your kid that special thing
Right.
you've been wanting. I get it. But
Right.
let's think again. Let's do some big picture thinking, which I think that's what parenting is all about. Let's step back, look at the big picture. How is this going to make them a better adult? And I love your idea of that. And we also have a tradition. We have a stuff the van toy drive here. I used to do it at the radio station where we would be there every day for a whole entire week, no matter what the weather was. And the community, we have a form that people can fill out that's very dignified to say, this is what we need. And what they do, they take the gifts and then they take it to another like warehouse kind of location. And then the gifts are all set out by age and boy and girl. And then the parents literally go shop. So they can
Oh,
pick, it's not just, here's your gift. You said you have a 6-year-old girl. They literally have shopping bags, and they just go through, and we have a list, but you have volunteers that help them shop. So my kids and I go every year, and we're the shop volunteers for them. So we can walk them around. We can help check off the list they have of what they need. And then my kids love it because they can offer help. Being kids, this is what your kid would really like. And it's just so dignified,
that's
fun,
awesome.
and love it, love it, love it, love it.
Well, again, and I think one thing that teaches your kids is the important role of charities and civil societies. This isn't a handout from the government. This
No.
isn't, and
This
that's
is people dropping things off while they're shopping at Walmart for their own family. And
yes.
it's so much fun. And I take my
Yeah.
kids too, and we pick things out, but I love that you brought that up. Thank you. Because that charity aspect is so important, whether it's volunteering your time, whether it's let's pick a family off the angel tree and you kids help us shop for it. And also, speaking of dignity, just remember the dignity and why you're doing it. You don't necessarily need to like post it all over social media. I post that we do this because I want to encourage other people to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, we're at Stuff the Van and Toy Drop, blah, blah, blah. But again, let's think, what's our big picture? What kind of kids do we want to have? Do we want to show the big receipt?
Oh, Cathy, it is.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And thank God you brought that up, because there is this trend in social media to like buy something for someone and then hand it to them, but then film them. And it's disgusting. And I mean, these things go
I am
viral,
so with you.
super viral. A homeless person sitting there on the curb. It's disgusting. And then the guy's like, oh, I'm really here to help you. No, what can I get you? What can I get you? And I find these things so revolting. And yes, it is one thing to promote an event that you can be a part of. Yeah. It is another thing to use these people in this way, which is gross. But again, the other thing is that what I would encourage is do these things with your kids. Do them. Yes, like you 100%. Said, you are going with your kids. It's meaningful for them. And it's important for them to see mom as an adult taking time out of her schedule, of her busy schedule, to dedicate to this. So all great ideas. Now, one last question that I have is, sometimes kids really want to get things for their parents, and like a gift for their parents. What advice do you give your kids? Because I'm always like, just forget it. And Darren usually panics, and then there's like some trip to the Target or the Walmart or whatever.
How much time do we have for stories of gifts of the past? How much? All right.
Well, one thing I will say, we sent our kids to Catholic private school, Catholic preschool, and they did this wonderful bazaar where they would lay out all these things. And I got the most hideous jewelry, and like what my son once brought me this big silver chain with a peace sign. Yeah, because that's
your jam.
That
100%.
Yeah,
you wear
big
it next
old
time,
peace sign. Yeah. Oh, I still have it. And there was some other but it was so sweet that he picked that out.
That's it right there, and you'll remember it forever. So that's my advice with that. So what we do is we take our kids and we let them pick out whatever. Now, my husband has learned over the years that when you take the kids to pick out a gift, you need to be thoughtful about what store. Like maybe go to a store that probably intrinsically already has items. So, for example, don't take your kids to the local Murdoch's Farm and Ranch store to pick out gifts for mommy for Christmas, though I do love that plastic goose planter. That plastic goose planter. It is a story. Like, you know what I'm talking about? The little old lady one. And it's
yeah.
So that's amazing. I have some jewelry because, when they're 3, the bigger, the brighter, the bolder. And when your husband takes them to Walmart to pick out the jewelry, it's going to be a win. But I have to be honest, like I find ways to wear it.
Me too.
I find ways to wear it and take a picture with them of it. And because a gift that is given is a gift that's given freely. And again, big picture parenting, it's not about me getting what I want. It's about teaching them the joy of thinking of another person and coming up with the thing and do right. And it teaches them to be gracious and giving, and us to be gracious in receiving. Right. So that's my thought on that, is take them, let them go crazy. And man, like their personalities come through.
Totally.
And I will never forget that plastic goose planter. or that dark black shade of lipstick. That was like, it's just, and now that they're older, right? Like my 15-year-old daughter has kind of taken over helping with the get, like, mom would like this. And I do help my husband out and send him some links
I
and give
buy
him
stuff.
give
I
him an idea.
flat
Yeah,
out buy
Santa
things.
always gets me exactly what I want. Like there's no worry about that. But and
Mm.
same thing like for my husband. I don't take the kids to the beauty store. We go to Sportsman's Warehouse or the local discount sports store to pick out the things for them. And it's just fun too to see their little, and that's quality family time right
It
there.
is.
Is
Yep.
taking them to shop for the others. So that's what we do. And my husband and I for each other, like half the time we don't do anything. Like it just,
Yeah.
that's not what it, because it really is.
Because you're grown-ups, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
honestly,
about them. It's about the kids.
yeah, it's not, it is. And so I don't disagree that sometimes having a gift, if I think of something quickly, I mean,
Sure.
it's not a rule. It's
Yeah.
just a matter
Yeah.
of time often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I do love the idea of helping your kids to find things. But again, when they pick things out that are just completely absurd,
It's
it's the
amazing.
best. It really is
And
the
their
best
little
gift.
handcrafted gifts. Like I have this beautiful hutch and like I feel like running over and showing you like a gift. It's like this pottery beaver. I kid you not. Like, man, it is
Pottery.
amazing. And if you don't think I'm not re-gifting my son that when he gets like married one year for Christmas, you have like it's just this whole shelf filled of like the worst. Like the
Pottery beaver might be the best part of this whole podcast.
oh my, it
Pottery
is
beaver is actually a gift to me. Thank you. Thank you, Cathy.
I'll text you a picture of
I
it
need
when
a
we're
picture
done.
of the pottery
In case
beaver.
Tim wants to put that too in the notes so people can see
Yes.
see the pottery
Yes.
beaver.
Oh my God, Cathy. It is always so great. Always so great talking to you. Merry Christmas if I don't see you, if we
Yeah,
don't talk
Merry
before
Christmas
then.
too. And thank you for having me. As always, it is just the best way to spend my morning.
Thanks, Cathy. We always love hearing from you. And we'll talk to you next month.
Mm-hmm.
The Bespoke Parenting Podcast with Julie Gunlock is a production of the Independent Women's Forum. You can send comments and questions to julie.gunlock@iwf.org. Please help me out by hitting the subscribe button and leaving us a comment or review on Apple Podcasts, Acast, Google Play, YouTube, or iwf.org. Hang in there, parents, and go bespoke.